Should it be mandatory for recreational planes and vessels to install these newer digital beacons? They can range from hundreds to thousands of dollars. Who should pay for that? Who should pay for the search and rescue of those false alarms? Let's put those questions now to some MPs. The Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Transport, Jeff Watson, is here. Jack Harris, the NDP's Deputy Critic for Transport, is here. And the Liberal Transport Critic, Joyce Murray, is here as well. Thanks so much for being here, all three of you. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Mr. Watson, let me start with you. Should these digital beacons be mandatory on all planes and boats?
Well, that's a question right now that Transport Canada, in light of the Auditor General's report, is examining presently. As you know, with respect to the new beacons, the 406, they are not only in commercial aircraft, but they are in the newer forms of recreational aircraft. The question now is taking a look back at the old vehicle aircraft in service right now and whether or not that should become mandatory for them. As I said, some consultations were done in toward the latter part of last year. That analysis is being done currently, and we hope to hear something in the near future about that.
Why is it taking so long? Transport Canada documents say the newer 406 beacons would have cut down the false alarms. We've said it costs about $47 million. You have the Auditor General that's saying these 121.5s are a problem. What's taking so long?
Yeah, well, let's be clear. The Auditor General didn't say change the regulation. They said that it should be considered. I think implicit in that is that it's not a simple, straightforward equation. There does have to be some important analysis done on that, and that's currently what's being done.
Okay, but the Auditor General did say that they're a problem. Now
there's right,
but he did say search and rescue are endangering lives. When they're responding to false alarms, they're not responding to others, and it's costing the taxpayer millions of dollars. Why not just make these recreational plane owners pony up the dough?
Again, the recommendation coming from the Auditor General was that we had to do some important consideration on that. The Department agreed with that finding, by the way, and they committed to a plan of action which is currently underway, and we'll see the results of that in due course.
Joyce, Jack Harris, we've seen some of these concerns. What's your view on what Transport Canada, the government, should do in terms of newer beacons?
I think the government has dropped the ball on this, going way back, 2009. After a 9-year plan, these 121 beacons were no longer being tracked by satellite. The statistics show that 97% of the alerts are in fact false alerts. They only go off 12% of the time in crashes. So there's a very serious problem with them from a safety perspective. And I saw some statistics today saying that to find one of these 121 beacons increases the search time, especially in a remote area, by up to 6 hours. So it's a real safety issue. Financially, yes, and the Auditor General concerns himself with that. But that's not the biggest issue. I think if you figure it out, it's about $6 or $7 million a year, and we'd want to see every search and rescue dollar go into equipment and better response times and more capability. But the real issue here is safety, and I think Transport Canada has dropped the ball.
Okay, Joyce Murray, we've seen video showing search and rescue staff chasing down a beacon in a garbage dump. What's your concern about this?
Well, it's a total failure to deliver on the part of this Conservative government. My understanding is that Transport Canada was planning to do a cost-benefit analysis, how to move forward to solve this problem back in 2009, and has simply failed to do that. Evan, what I want to point out is that this uses up resources that are very important for saving lives. So the Buffaloes, which are primarily deployed on the West Coast, we've just found through an order paper question that there were 14 different instances over a 3 or 4 year period during which the Buffaloes were not able to respond to a search and rescue request. So that can cost lives, and that's being exacerbated by all these false alarms that are happening all over the place. So it's urgent that the government solve this.
Joyce Murray, let me just stay with you, because the AG has raised questions about, as you talk about, the Buffalo, 45 years of service. These airplanes are more difficult to support because of spare parts. Any update on that?
Well, and I mean, there's more problems, as we know from the government deciding that they were going to scrap the whole process of procurement to replace the buffaloes. They are starting again at square one after these have been identified since back in 2004 and again in 2008 as a top priority procurement. So I'm afraid this is just another illustration of this ongoing Keystone Cops failure to really get it right with replacement of urgently needed equipment.
Mr. Watson, when can we expect some movement either on the Beacon, either on the Buffalo? I mean, clearly search and rescue. The whole world's watching a huge search and rescue operation for the Malaysian aircraft. Search and rescue is such a critical top-of-mind issue, and here in Canada, there's obviously a real pressure, both to get the right equipment and to make sure that they're not essentially chasing false alarms. When can we see action on this?
Right. Well, let's be clear. In response to the auditor, well, first of all, let's be clear that these beacons are still saving lives too. They're not all false positives that come from these particular beacons, so they have some utility here. But and our search and rescue folks do tremendous work, obviously. But let's be clear. The Auditor General's report from last year. The department's already acting on its plan of action as it committed to in that particular report. The data is under analysis right now. I don't have a specific timeline on when they're going to announce something on that, but that's
you know we're behind schedule. I mean, you say it's good enough, but if in the United States pressure is building on the Federal Communications Commission.
I do want to say something though, Evan, here, and it has to be clear. We can't continue as the opposition will do to somehow erode confidence in our search and rescue capabilities. That they are world-renowned.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about improving
Mr. Watson, let me just get this in. Your argument is there's good enough, and let me just, in the United States, let's just do a baseline comparison. There's lots of pressure on the Federal Communications Commission, the body responsible for emergency beacons, to phase out the 121.5s, the analog. There's a report from the FAA 2 months ago concluded, quote, continued use of the 121.5 technology increases the risk and the cost of search and rescue operations. If the U.S. is preparing to phase out these, why isn't Transport Canada?
Well, what I said is that we're committed to the plan of action that we outlined in response to the Auditor General's report. That is occurring in a timely fashion, and we're going to see that through to completion.
Okay, I mean, I just, as a member of the public watching this, you know, what are we to accept from a timely...
Well, we don't make these decisions on the back of a napkin, in fairness, Evan. I mean, you know, they want the analysis. We're doing the analysis.
And 7 years is not a timely fashion. I mean, almost $50 million in wild goose chases in 7 years. So let's not call this timely, please, Jeff.
We're wasting money, and we've got a beacon that's, you know, 1/50th of the strength of the 406s. It has a 500 square mile radius. You don't know where it is. It really should be gone. Some of these older aircraft have been flying for 20 and 30 years, and they're going to be around for a while. So something's got to be done about it. Committing to looking at it doesn't really do very much.
Again, Mr. Ross, again, this goes back to 2007. Transport Canada were thinking of installing 406 beacons. I mean, this is not a new issue. You and I both know. I mean, I guess the question is, you say a timely manner and not back of the napkin, but I mean, unless you've been drawing on the napkin since 2007, this goes back a long way.
Well, again, the Auditor General has said we should consider this. We are considering it. We're doing it in a timely fashion, and we'll have something more to report on that.
Sticking to his talking points.
All right, let me leave it there. We'll keep following this. I appreciate Jeff Watson and Jackie Joyce Murray, all of you coming on. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.